Welcome to The Explainer. We are diving into the absolutely wild story of OpenClaw. This is about a weekend project that just exploded. So fast, in fact, that it kicked off a bidding war between the biggest names in tech and really forced a massive conversation about the soul of open source AI.
So what happens when one single developer gets calls from three of the most powerful CEOs in the world, all at the same time? Well, this story isn't really just about code. It's about power, it's about ambition, and it's about how one person found himself right in the middle of it all. Let's get into how this happened.
I mean, just look at this timeline. It is absolutely staggering. We're talking less than 3 months from a simple weekend project to the fastest growing thing on GitHub, period. And it all culminates with the founder joining OpenAI. It wasn't just fast, this was a complete firestorm.
Okay, so let's start right at the moment everything really changed. That bombshell announcement. On Valentine's Day of all days, Peter Steinberger makes it official he's joining OpenAI. Now, this news didn't just break a few hearts in the open source world. It sent absolute shockwaves through the community. And it was the capstone to one of the most unbelievable 3-month rides in tech history. And you have to understand, for Steinberger, this was not about getting a big payday. He'd already built a company, he'd already sold it. This was about impact. He wanted access to the best models, the cutting-edge research, and the sheer scale that really only a lab like OpenAI could give him to truly change the world.
But to really get why this was such a huge deal, we need to rewind a little bit and look at what he actually built. I mean, what is OpenClaw anyway?
So this was not just another chatbot. OpenClaw was an AI agent that actually did stuff for you in the real world. Booking flights, sorting your email, you name it. And the key was it all ran locally on your own machine. That local first, privacy first thing was a huge part of the appeal. Your data never had to leave your computer. The growth of this thing was, well, it was completely unprecedented. To give you some perspective, hitting 100,000 stars on GitHub is a massive milestone. Some projects take years to get there, if they ever do. OpenClaw did it in just 2 days. 2! It became the fastest growing project in GitHub history. It got so popular that people were saying it was actually causing shortages of high-end Apple hardware because everyone was trying to run it. And this just perfectly captures the chaotic, community-driven vibe of the whole thing. Even the name has this wild backstory. It starts as a pun, gets a legal threat from the AI company Anthropic, gets briefly renamed Moltbot after some crazy 5 a.m. Discord session, and then finally lands on OpenClaw. This was just pure internet speed, unfiltered. So, of course, this kind of explosive growth did not go unnoticed. Very, very quickly, the project was on the radar of every single major player in the industry. And yeah, they all came calling.
Now, to understand the guy behind the project, you have to understand his philosophy. He calls it vibe coding. It's a controversial idea for sure, but it is absolutely key to understanding how OpenClaw moved so ridiculously fast. He basically described himself as a conductor for an orchestra of AI coding agents. He would set the high-level vision, the architecture, and then let the AIs just handle the nitty-gritty implementation. The result? A staggering velocity. We're talking almost 7,000 code commits in just 68 days. Now, that speed drew a ton of admiration. But boy, it also raised some major red flags for the security community. And you just could not have a starker contrast in how the industry giants reacted. I mean, on one side, you've got Anthropic, whose only real contribution was sending in the lawyers. And on the other side, you've got Sam Altman, Mark Zuckerberg, and Satya Nadella personally calling him, messaging him, and even running the code themselves to give direct, unfiltered feedback. Just night and day. So, as you can probably guess, the decision to join OpenAI, the biggest, most well-funded lab in the world, it fractured the very same open source community that had been cheering the project on from the very beginning. And pretty quickly, the community reaction split into about 5 distinct camps. You had the people piling on Anthropic for their whole legal-first approach. You had the security hawks just sounding every alarm about the vulnerabilities. And then you had the open source purists, who just saw this as a complete betrayal. But you also had folks worried about talent getting sucked out of other regions, and of course, you had the enthusiastic builders who were just excited to see what happened next. This comment from Hacker News it perfectly captured the skepticism. The sarcasm is just dripping from it. How could a project literally named OpenClaw after being absorbed by a company now pretty famous for its closed-door approach, possibly stay open. The security people, they weren't just being philosophical. They were pointing to very real, concrete dangers. They found vulnerabilities that could lead to something called data exfiltration, which is a fancy way of saying your private information could get stolen. They also found exposed API keys, basically the digital passwords that could give attackers access to user accounts. These flaws were so bad that the big tech research firm Gartner told companies to block all downloads of the software immediately. And this problem wasn't just theoretical. When security firms actually analyze the marketplace for OpenClaw skills, these are like the add-ons that give it new abilities, they found that a huge number were either actively malicious or dangerously flawed. That whole move fast and break things approach had created a security nightmare with very real-world consequences. So what is the bigger picture here? This story is about so much more than just one project. It is a perfect case study in this ongoing battle between open and closed development in AI.
For OpenAI, let's be honest, this was a brilliant strategic move. After getting criticized for years for abandoning its open roots, this acquisition lets them grab top-tier talent and, at the same time, regain a ton of credibility with the open source community.
And this whole debate isn't just a philosophical one. It's deeply economic. You look at research from MIT, and it just highlights this stark cost difference. Open models are dramatically cheaper to run, so much so that they could potentially save the global economy an estimated $25 billion a year. So now, the project's future is officially in the hands of a foundation that's backed by OpenAI. But this central question, it's still hanging in the air. The lobster has shed its old shell, but what is the new one going to look like? Ultimately, whether OpenClaw can actually keep its independent open-source spirit alive while being funded by an AI giant, that is the real test. And its future is going to tell us a whole lot about what the word open truly means in the age of artificial intelligence.